everyone. Thank you for joining us. I am David Cannon. I am with PeopleCert. I am the head of Americas in PeopleCert. I'm also an ITIL fanatic, having contributed to the ITIL books. I've participated in writing books in ITIL version 3 as well as ITIL 4. One of the favorite things about my job is that I get to meet a lot of fellow IT service management professionals. And what I enjoy most about that is learning from their experience. I find that broadens my view. It gives me insight into how I can improve my own job. And we are very privileged this morning to be able to be joined by 3 people who are professionals in the field and who have extensive experience in using and implementing ITIL practices. And today I have a very specific question for them. I would like to know specifically how ITIL certification has played a role in their in the transformation of their organizations. And to answer that question, we have 3 people, 3 experienced people. I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves. And Svetlana, if we can start with you, Svetlana Sidenko, over to you. Could you tell me about yourself and your ITIL journey and the role that ITIL certification has played?
Hi, David. Hi, everyone. Thank you. Thank you for introduction. Well, I'm Svetlana Sidenko. I'm Vice President of IT Chapter, Canadian branch of Group Upseed, an international company. We are an IT consulting and training company specializing in ITIL and service management since year 2003. Me personally, I have 25 years of experience as an ITSM, IT service management and ITIL practitioner. I've led teams in implementing numerous ITIL and ITSM and recently enterprise service management solutions, process improvements, and tools, ITSM tools implementations. My work has focused on driving digital transformations and operational improvements with various organizations, various industry over 25 years. Literally, I think I worked in all industries. I'm a project management professional, PMP. I'm certified governance professional, master of business relationship management. And in the terms of ITIL, I have older credentials and certifications since the older versions of ITIL and recently a strategic leader and managing professional. And what else to say about me? I'm completing my PhD in computer science. And a little bit about my philosophy and my motto. I'm a strong believer in the growth mindset. And my motto is to embrace continuous learning and seize every opportunity to grow and innovate.
Thank you, Svetlana. David Lareau, could you introduce yourself and tell us the role that ITIL has played and the impact that it's made on your career?
Sure. Thank you, David. So my name is David Lareau. I work as an IT director in a company called Fondaction. It's been established since 25 years. We help Quebec residents save for retirement. So we invest their savings in local and small businesses while protecting our environment and respecting natural ecosystem limits. I took my ITIL master certification to become autonomous and reduce the need for consulting in our business. And I now manage a team of 20 persons who take care of IT operations like infrastructure, cloud, telecom, and support. So ITIL has helped me since 2012 to succeed in managing different IT teams.
Thank you, David. Last and definitely not least, Dominic Deschênes, if you could introduce yourself.
It's quite an impressive audience that we have today, and unfortunately I have to go last after Svetlana and David. So thank you, David, for having us on this panel. So Dominic Deschênes, I've been in IT for over 30 years, management position for over 25 years, and yes, I was ITIL version 1 certified in 2001. So I've been applying ITIL best practices since. And over the years, through the framework and the guidance and the governance, And all best practices that ITIL recommends, I've been able to influence positively, make some significant changes to lots of companies, mostly in the financial industry arena. But it's been quite an interesting journey in how to optimize and digitally transform organizations as well. And most recently, in the last few years, I've also been, I'm also an ITIL certified trainer and been delivering this content around ITIL. And a bit like you, David, very passionate fanatic of ITIL, and I believe it makes a huge difference in an organization. So very pleased to be here today. Back to you, David.
Thank you very much. I have a number of questions for all of you, and I want to ask the audience as well. If you have questions, please post them in the Q&A at the bottom of the Zoom tool panel. We'll get to your questions. If you post them in the chat, I'll probably see them, but I may just miss them. So please, if you have questions, put them in the Q&A. I'll get to your questions at the end of the session. We have time for questions. But I have a few questions to start with. And the first one is, if we're talking about ITIL certification, what has been or what was the initial impact of ITIL certification on your organization's digital transformation initiatives? And I'm going to start by asking David that question, the initial impact of ITIL certification.
Yeah, sure. We certified mostly all employees over the last 3 years. And some of us moved to the master's level, and many motivated employees took advanced courses as well. Fondaction encourages employees to achieve certifications in their professional level. This helped us enable our digital transformation. Now it's easier to have a business-oriented conversation. With ITIL Master Certification, I can go beyond incident request and changes management to support business needs. We started using agile project management for operational projects. We use the shift left concept to empower support team. And we also have communities of practices that ensure a continual improvement for their practice and increase a maturity level. So I would say,
well, thank you. What about you, Dominic? What has been your experience?
Putting into practice the ITIL guiding principles, there are 7 of them that ITIL recommends, and putting them into practice has really been beneficial. And I see it in the training session I deliver as well, where I see people going, oh, Monday, I can apply this to my job. Very practical guiding principles. My favorite one, start where you are. So ITIL won't revolutionize your business, but it will allow you to, to start that evolution process, but you don't need to restart everything from scratch. So start where you are, focus on value. And I could go on with the other 5 guiding principles, but of course, my favorite one, start where you are. So you're not, destroying the whole thing and starting from scratch, start where you are.
Great. Svetlana, I know you've had a lot of experience in this as well. What has been your experience?
Well, yes, indeed, I have a lot of experience in that, but I would start with IT chapter itself. We are a training company, and we are providing services. And we do implement their ITSM, the enterprise service management within our company, within IT chapter. And following on Dominic's mentioning 7 guiding principles, we are huge fans and believers in those guiding principles as well. We've also undergone a complete digital transformation ourselves. Probably we can all relate to these hard times of pandemic, when we had to switch to completely different type of work and had to transform fast and efficient. Most of our employees, including not technical personnel, are ITIL certified. And we do give them this education to be able to understand what is business value, how to relate to business value in providing all the services, even if it's accounting service or finance service or maybe students registration service. We did apply key principles such as focusing on value, starting where you are, also one of my favorite, keeping it simple and practical, but the top on my list is optimize and automate. And we took it in production. So in our company, we optimized all our processes, automated them, and integrated all our service management steps. For example, students enrollment, we automated integration between CRM, learning management system, all their flows, our issues, incidents are coming automatically and rerouted automatically to our personnel, and so on and so forth. These principles have guided us in delivering high quality services and ensuring continuous improvement and efficiency of our operations. As for our clients, on another side, because we're also providing ITSM, ITIL consulting services, we always strongly recommend to undergo the ITIL certification and create relevant competencies of all employees at the beginning of their digital transformation, as we know that impact of relevant knowledge and skills, which ultimately transfer to the new competencies, is critical to digital transformation.
Thank you, Svetlana. Dominic, back to you. I want to know about some specific examples of how you've applied ITIL principles. And I know your favorite one is start where you are. So you started where you are. What was a principle that really helped you to move forward from there?
So starting where you are was, of course, remains my favorite guiding principle in previous organizations where I've been. And I'll speak to a service desk realignment that we had to do a couple of years ago. And we applied the start where you are principle, of course, but we also applied the 4 dimensions of ITIL. So people and organization, information technology, of course, value stream and processes, and partners and suppliers, which is the 4th dimension of ITIL. The org and people was really key to realigning, clarifying roles and responsibilities and accountability with the service desk area, with some specific ITIL processes and practices. We were able to really dedicate or make the accountability clear to the service desk area being accountable for incident and service request. So from that point and moving forward, it was clear in the organization that the accountability end-to-end for these 2 practices belong to the service desk area. How have we achieved that? Well, we did not rebuild the service desk. We started where we were, and we applied the 4 dimensions of ITIL, and then it allowed us to reinforce, enhance, and clarify roles and responsibilities, which is one of these significant dimensions of ITIL, org and people, of course.
Great. Thank you. It's a great example. So instead of just dumping a tool in there and hoping that everything works, getting those 4 dimensions together and clearly assigning the accountability for specific practices.
Made a huge difference.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. There's another significant addition to ITIL 4, and that is the area of value streams. And David Lareau, I'm going to ask you, has ITIL certification helped you to identify and oversee the IT value streams within your organization?
Yes, absolutely. So one of the first things we did was to map a value stream of employee onboarding, starting from the service request, profiles approval, account creation, computer preparation. So we used the lean technique to improve this workflow. And we got rid of complex forms to fill and sign. And we were able to gain lots of efficiency and increased user satisfaction over this process. And we were able to cut down the resolution objective by half. So we were able to publish new SLAs as well. So that's an example. And we had to challenge the KPIs because we lived the watermelon effect. KPIs, they look good, but when we dig deeper on hidden data, like waiting times or informal comments on the workflow, we saw that there was important pain points that would justify the review of some value streams. So we often go in workshop mode, we work in team, and we optimize these. Another example with services, we improve the end user computing services. So now that most IT employees are ITIL certified, we all speak the same language. So we follow the best practices. We understand the concept of service, of collaboration, of swarming. So we are able now to modify SLAs to increase perceived value in incident and request management, especially focusing on ownership and communication. So we began to receive a moment of truth feedbacks now. So it's pretty impressive.
How important was it that the members from different teams were speaking the same language?
Well, I think it's the most important thing because yeah, that's what we wanted to secure at the beginning. Make sure that all new employees they're really encouraged to go and certify themselves. So we have a common language now, and I think all the companies starts to have the same language, even if they're not ITIL specialists. No, I think it's the pillar of building a solid team.
David, I'd like to
Yes,
comment on one of the analogy that David referred to being the watermelon effect. Green on the outside, red on the inside. I've been talking to the guiding principles, start where you are. Well, that's something to keep in mind. You know, deep dive, understand your current state. Your report may look green, but once you deep dive, you may find surprises, and they may be green on the outside and red on the inside. So important to keep that in mind with that guiding principle, start where you are. Just wanted to add my 2 cents to this. A great analogy, David.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. Now, you know, sometimes when we take an ITIL certificate, it looks like it's all together and easy to do. Your experiences showed that it's, I mean, the results you've achieved are remarkable. It sounds almost very easy, but I'm sure there were challenges along the way. So I'd like to explore some of those challenges. Svetlana, what are some of the biggest challenges you faced when implementing ITIL frameworks? And I'd also like to know how you overcame them.
Okay, so how we overcame them. So yeah, so we continuously encountering several challenges, and we see them over and over again, similar one. I would say on the top of my list, the biggest one is lack of knowledge. Lack of ITIL, ITSM knowledge, and relating to David and Dominic mentioning common language. While some employees are educated and certified in ITIL, and we see it in many organizations in the beginning of their digital transformations and improving and modernizing their ITSM in their organizations. A group of several people well aware, educated, and championing the cause of implementation, and others are not educated yet, somewhere in plan, maybe 10 months later, but not immediately, and maybe even never, and not encouraged to obtain the knowledge. So the lack of common knowledge brings major risks, right? So we just interpretation of what is incident, what is problem is already on the surface. We know that we all have all kinds of examples, at least in the audience here, when this misinterpretation is bringing the risks. But going beyond that, deployments, right? Releases, changes. What is it? So Lack of knowledge is a major risk. How we overcome it? We insist, we recommend, we advise, and we educate, and we try to influence our clients to get the knowledge one way or another way. Well, ideally get certified, foundation, and beyond. And concentrate on the priority processes. Luckily, recently, PeopleCert introduced their very efficient and comprehensive set of certifications per practice. If organization is interested to go for a modernization of just their service desk as a part of that digital transformation, their personnel can get educated and certified just on incident management, service desk, and let's say service request. That's it. It's a short one-day certification, and so on and so forth. So this is one of the challenges and how we overcome it. Another one is the famous one, also executive support. Often executives are seeing ITSM modernizations, ITIL implementations as important part of digital transformation, but sort of operational, which is far from being a truth, right? Because IT service management is all about business value. And if the lights are not on, even in operations, the big business goals will not happen. So that's another challenge again, influencing, educating, trying to explain the value. And final one, the third one, often seen is losing momentum. Organizations are often successful in achieving first results, quick wins, first great customer feedback, good KPIs achieved. Okay, we are done. We are great now. Okay, we'll move to other priorities. Losing momentum and often losing, if not all, but good part of achievement. And so it's sad to see how we overcome it. The same thing, educating, that keep momentum going.
I'm gonna come back to that point a little bit later on, because I think what you've said is really important in terms of just keeping things going. Reach the end of the project. It's not the end of your organization. It still continues forward. So I'd like to come back to that. But before we do, Dominic, what has been your biggest challenge, and how have you overcome it?
Well, I think I will bounce on what Svetlana just mentioned. What I've seen in organizations is by default, people may not be as receptive as we'd like them to be to changes such as introducing an ITIL framework into an organization. Why? Well, lack of knowledge. And this is where I bounce on what Svetlana mentioned a few minutes ago: knowledge, understanding, awareness. Once you educate your people, your employees, on what the framework is about, because when things get measured and visible, of course, it will create some resistance to change, because now you will be reflecting, what's going on and what's really happening in your organization. So if you want to take it to the next level, well, you get your people to be, a bit more aware of what is the framework, what it does for you, such as focusing on business value, focusing on outcome, not necessarily on outputs, big distinction between the two. So focusing on the business value, on the outcome that you bring to the business. And once you start, even service desk people, once you get them to understand that service recovery for an incident management process, as an example, like restoring service ASAP, is a business value of some sort by reducing, minimizing the impacts to production, as an example, well, then people understand the true nature and the real value an incident process will bring to the organization. So focusing on business value, educate your people, create the awareness. And Svetlana, you alluded to executive sponsorship. By all means, make sure you do have executive sponsorships to make it happen. But I think making it visible, get them to understand the real value behind what the framework brings to you, it will do miracles for you.
Thank you. David, anything to add?
Sure. I'd like to share you a concrete example. We had a challenge in service improvement, and we opted for complete transparency. So we created 5 specific questions in user satisfaction surveys to address potential service weaknesses, which were sensitive. So we were asking questions about technician courtesy and skills. But we were able to have the union approval because we demonstrated value, which was our will to improve the service. And there were several improvements to be made to our ITIL practices. And to overcome that, we created communities of practices, which continuously measure maturity levels and act accordingly to increase them. So they meet monthly, and they really feel true ownership on bringing value to their practice.
So back to Svetlana's point of that continuing momentum of the improvements of the project.
Absolutely.
One of the challenges we often hear about is this whole area of culture and cultural change. How do you handle cultural change within the organization? And I'm going to start with you, Dominic, this time. How do you handle cultural change?
So cultural change is all about changing a behavior. That's what you want to do. You want to change behavior in the organization. A culture is how you do things in a given organization. That's what a culture is, right? So what you want to do is introduce through proper training, education, awareness. Educate your folks to, from now on, this is what we'd like to do. Have it part of a roadmap. Have a target state defined so that you can line things up to your target state as a service management practice or office or practices. And one thing that's really key, and again, Svetlana, you alluded to it earlier on in the previous section, is executive sponsorship. You do need buy-in from execs in order to have that cultural shift happening. Because to make sure that, you all agree on what, the definition, and David Lareau, you mentioned vocabulary or common language that we should all be using in the organization. Well, that's part of the cultural shift, is to make sure we adopt a common language with everything we do. So an incident is what is an incident? What is a request? What is a change? And then that will bring and change the behavior over time. And you will achieve, it takes time. Changing a culture, 18 to 24 months. So it's not something that happens overnight. So give it some time. But as long as you're focused on your target state, you will be making that cultural shift along the way.
Great point. Thank you. David, your name was just mentioned, so let's turn to you.
Sure, thank you. At Fondaction, we have an important union culture. So roles are clearly defined and often strictly delimited. So ITIL is helpful because practices are clearly defined, but allow us to adapt to our context. So cultural change work for us when we offer high value tasks to people. It's easier to get employees buy-in this way. And one example of that is practices like shift left, which is beneficial for both teams. So the one who receives the new task is empowered, and the team that delegates the tasks are they can live enhanced collaboration and also may have resource optimization on their side. So that's how we...
Thank you. Svetlana.
Well, going back to what I said, executive support is a key. The executives should acknowledge the importance of culture change, and we need to approach the change of culture and, as Dominic said, behavior deliberately. It should be the deliberate initiative and approach ideally, and specifically in large organizations, we need to have people who know what to do, the experts in management of change, I would say, in changing the culture, who probably done it before, well-educated, have great competencies, and they would apply their change strategies, apply change plans, communication plans, and so on and so forth. Well, unfortunately, not all organizations are privileged to have these people or to hire these people, or often it's a question of budget. So now another perspective of it is that everyone can deal with it, and any ITSM, ITIL professional can deal with it. How did we do it 20 years ago, 25 years ago? If I look back, right, it's a push, right? We send the communication, we send the email, we get everyone to the town hall and give them the big speech, and this is how we're gonna do it. It's all valid, it's all good now, right? But now times changed, and we have to look at it differently. I'm recommending now their pool approach. Okay, when we're moving from now to new, we have to pool our peers, our employees, and the storytelling is a very powerful tool here. We need to master the art of storytelling, explaining people, right? Explaining why we're doing it, what's the purpose of this initiative, so that they can relate on it. What's the history? What's the current situation? Talking about the current situation, start where we are. Another powerful tool to trigger the change. If everyone in organization understands exactly where we are, our watermelon, green outside, red inside, right? And we explain people, give them the story, give them the history, pooling them. So that's their criteria of success. Celebrating small successes and recognizing early adopters, playing a very important role as well. And of course, empathy. We have to be empathetic. We have to understand where everyone is, every persona in organization, right? And that's how we are approaching their cultural change now in 2024.
And I'd like to add one thing, Svetlana, on what you mentioned. Recognizing the behaviors that are aligned to your roadmap and target state. That's really key. Recognizing the small wins and the behaviors that are supporting your roadmap and your changes and your evolution, to recognize them and make them visible to your sponsors, but to the rest of the organization. That's very powerful as well.
I agree.
So thank you for that. I'd like to look specifically at digital transformation now and ask the question, and there are two parts to this question. The first part is, how have you seen ITIL certification influencing the broader digital transformation strategies in your organization? That's the first part of the question. Once you've answered that, I'm going to come back with a question that came up in the Q&A, which is how I'm going to get the question up so that I can ask it properly. And that is, we hear a lot about enterprise service management. So first of all, how have you seen ITIL certification working in helping you support digital transformation? And then secondly, do you see organizations using this outside of IT? And we'll explore that. But let's answer the first part first. How does ITIL certification help you to support the digital transformation strategies in your organization? Dominic, let's start with you.
The guiding principle in my current role and position at the Industrial Alliance, basically the guiding principles that ITIL recommends allow us to stay on track with our digital transformation roadmap. So the focusing on value, the start where you are, the progress iteratively with feedback, the collaborate, promote visibility, the think and work holistically, keep it simple and practical, and optimize and automate. These are the 7 guiding principles that we adopted as an organization to ensure that we stay on track with our digital transformation. So whenever there's a direction needed or a strategic orientation that's required or a strategic discussion that's needed, we refer back to these guiding principles. We added one on top of these 7 recommended ITIL principles, but we refer back to the guiding principles for making that strategic decision. It allows us to stay on course, to stay on track with our roadmap. And needless to say that the 4 dimensions are that we alluded to earlier on are fundamental to, you know, staying on top of your, you know, service management game or roadmap, of course, but guiding principles and the different tools that ITILs recommend from a governance perspective, from a of course guiding principles perspective, but the value stream and all the best practices that we see, they've been allowing us to stay on course with our digital transformation. Would you like me to comment on ESM, Enterprise Service Management,
Sure.
David, at the same time?
Go ahead, please.
I'll be very quick, and if there are any further questions or more information required, I'd be more than happy to answer it afterwards. ESM, like a request is a request. Whether you manage facility and you need to change a light bulb in a building, it's an incident or a service request, right? So it's an incident is an incident. It's a service disruption of some sort. And a service request is, you know, requesting an additional piece of material, furniture, hardware, software. It doesn't matter what it is, but these practices, these value stream and processes that we have in IT could be applicable to other areas in the organization. Think of HR, think of facilities. Of course, ESM is very powerful, and we see it more and more in organizations. Needless to say that down the road, getting into demand management and all of this is something that we'd like to, you know, entertain, of course, but start with the basics. And a request is a request. An incident is an incident, no matter what you're servicing, restoring, a request is a request.
Thank you, Dominic. David, in your experience, you know, how does ITIL certification support and the ITIL principles support digital transformation strategies?
Yeah, ITIL influences our digital transformation strategies. It prepares us to have a better digital culture. And following on Dominic's comments, I don't have any specific example from Fondaction talking about ESM, but I'm sure that non-IT employees could also benefit from ITIL courses because many of them pursue similar goals as customer satisfaction, value stream efficiency, and conversion of demand into value, especially in digital organizations as ours. So that's it. That's how ITIL helped us in our strategy. We're being exposed to the strategies now. We can view things arrive in advance, like risks, change managing, and facing big and fast changes. So yeah, it really helped us this way.
Oh, thank you. Svetlana, anything to add?
Well, I would add on enterprise service management, and then I will go to answer the question because it's a very interesting phenomena. With or without strategies, organizations do enterprise service management. Often we observe that they do it just on extension of the current service desks using the current ITSM, ESM tools, whatever tools they have, getting inter and start managing incidents, requests, facilities, administration, accounting, finance, payroll, you name it. So what I am observing regarding enterprise service management is that it's better to have a strategy for ESM than not, because many organizations, they do it because of the need and because they think it's a great idea, but without strategy, it works, but it doesn't bring full results, only marginal results, marginal success. So it's better to have a full ESM strategy. But going back to your question, David, ITIL certification is key to all our digital transformation strategies and in several important ways. So first, it gives us a set of best practices that helps our clients to align their IT services with their business goals. It's a very important vehicle and mechanism, making sure that every technological advancement supports company overall objectives. It streamlines service management processes and making IT and enterprise services more reliable, which is crucial to building a strong foundation for digital transformation. Then ITIL helps manage big changes in technology smoothly and reducing disruptions. And finally, ITIL's focus on continuous improvement helps digital transformation efforts ongoing, allowing businesses to stay agile and responsive to new opportunities. ITIL has very strong risk management part of the competency, which maybe not everyone knows because not everyone went yet to the advanced ITIL education and certifications. ITIL has very strong, amazing module book course, Digital and IT Strategy, which we call DITS, and we all went through it in an advanced level. That for me, when I took it back, when the book was published in 2019, was an eye-opening. And mind you, I spent in ITIL 20 years by that time. I thought I saw it all. I didn't. So this book is an eye-opening. I advise everyone to at least read it or take a course, Digital and IT Strategy. And this is straight to the point of our topic today, digital transformations. Risk management, understanding what is digital transformation, understanding how to build a digital strategy. And overall, ITIL certification ensures that digital transformation efforts are efficient, effective, and aligned with business long-term goals.
Thank you. And I agree, it's an excellent book. But let's move on. You mentioned earlier about sustaining success and keeping the momentum going. And I'm going to ask Dominic, what has been your experience in creating sustainable success?
Yeah, I believe, and what I've seen in action, David, is all about, well, first, I see three things in which ITIL can help sustaining success in an organization. Consistency, by having standard processes, standard ways of doing things. That consistency will increase and bring you, a competency level in your organization that will eventually allow you to perform even better. So consistency will increase your performance over time, and which will drive, of course, success. Think of incident. If you process and treat process incidents, in the same fashion, very diligently for every single tickets or incidents happening in your organization, it brings consistency, and it will bring you to a higher level of performance down the road. Enablement. I see ITIL and the set of practices that exist in ITIL today. There are 34 practices that exist in ITIL today, and a lot of them are enabling business. A simple one I'll use as an example is change enablement, which is allowing organizations to better introduce changes to a given production environment without causing disruption, of course, to your production environment. So there's a set of practices and standards. Once again, we're back to consistency, allowing organization or enabling organization to be more successful with their growth, their evolution, or whatever new feature sets or production features that they require. CSI, not crime scene investigation, of course, but continual service improvement. There's a big focus in the latest generation of ITIL around continual improvement. If you apply this continual improvement practice and transform your organization and have that program in place, not just for IT, but for the entire organization. And we go back to sponsorship here, executive sponsorship. It will be a success criteria down the road. Success criteria for your day-to-day operations, success criteria for your budget planning exercise going down the road. Say, what do I need? Where do I need to invest next year? while your CSI backlog, your continual service improvement backlog, could give you a list of potential investments that you need to make to improve your posture overall. So consistency, enablement, and continual improvement, David, would be the three criteria that I see where ITIL can help sustaining success.
Thank you. So from sustaining success for existing projects, what I'd like to do now is shift the focus a little bit to the future. And I want to ask the panelists what you see is coming our way. What are the future trends within ITIL and ITSM that you're seeing in your organization? And what do you recommend? What should we do to prepare for these changes? David, I'm going to start with you.
Yeah, thanks. So I see three things growing in our business. For sure, AI, automation as well, and also responsible or green IT. They're taking much more space in our business now. ITIL 4 is more open to other best practices such as Agile, Scrum, Lean, DevOps, and this is a good way to go for the future. And I would say it's pretty simple how to prepare for these changes. Start your certification today.
Great, thank you. Dominic.
More and more, and I believe it's a question I saw in the chat as well around the Agile methodology and the alignment with ITIL best practices. More and more, I see alignment and similarities between the two sets of best practices. When you talk to focusing on value and promoting collaboration and visibility and progress iteratively with feedback, well, that sounds like Agile to me, but no, they're guiding principles of ITIL as well. So, more and more, there's going to be a happy marriage happening between the two practices. ITIL provides something, above and beyond that Agile is not providing around measurement, alignment, continual service improvement. But more and more, we see the two practices. I'm using Agile as it was referred to in the chat in one of the questions. Agile and ITIL, more and more, the two practices are focused on. There's similarities that exist between the two sets of best practices.
Right, and since that question is raised, thank you, Nasiruddin, for asking that question, which is about how do we adapt to legacy change? And I think your question has answered that. I mean, you've answered that, Dominic, but I just want to add one thing and say that already within ITIL, the change enablement process has significantly changed to be able to support the Agile way of working and the Agile methodologies like Scrum, for example. So, yeah, I think we're already seeing that.
Yes.
Svetlana.
Nothing much else to say. Well, I mean, David and Dominic mentioned, but I would say ITIL is about everything now. For those who really dived deep into ITIL 4 and had access to their publications, High Velocity IT, Create, Deliver, and Support, they are by far the best overall description of everything which happens in IT. And that's the future. It's about Agile, it's about CI/CD, it's about DevOps, it's about project management, business analysis, security, architecture, it's about everything. So that's the big marriage of all the practices as the future of IT. And the second one is, of course, artificial intelligence. I'm yet to dreaming to, how would I say, to put in practice their big solution of AI, which is coming very soon in ITSM, but that's the future. How we prepare for now, we're learning. So I'm personally diving into AI capabilities to get ready to shoot in ITSM when the opportunity comes.
Great.
So you and I should dream together, Svetlana, because I look forward to that day where we're going to have some AI into the ITIL or ITSM world.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm going to, we have a minute left. We have some great questions in the chat, and I want to get to those, but I have a I'll ask two questions for you, and we can answer them very briefly. The first one is, what advice do you have for people wanting to pursue ITIL certification? And especially, how can they maximize the use of ITIL certification in their careers? Svetlana, let's start with you.
Well, so my advice is stay curious, always seek new knowledge and experience, and don't assume that your experience alone can compensate for the lack of up-to-date knowledge. To stay relevant, we have to get new knowledge. Okay, the common sense of what you've learned for the past 5, 10, 15 years is great. It's absolutely necessary, but it's not going to compensate for the knowledge.
Right.
Relevant.
Great. David, what advice do you have?
Yeah, I'd like to share some practical tricks on how to achieve a master certification. So first one would be to work for an excellent company like Fondaction, who supports employees' growth and cover courses expenses. So that's my first trick. But also, more seriously, you should study with other people. It's really more motivating. You should work with a reliable company like IT Chapter, who can offer course dates all year long. It's pretty useful. And a personal hint, I really use the practice exams. So I think it's a good trick for you to pass the exams.
Dominic.
I do want to mention that if there are no openings at Fondaction, Industrial Alliance, also a great company to work for, and keep an eye on the job openings on our website. Just do it. That would be my piece of advice. Just do it, register. And, you know, I deliver the ITIL Foundation fundamentals training a lot. And the feedback I get from the people attending the training session is, wow, I'm going to go back to the office on Monday and I'll do something with this. I'll put this into practice. So it's very practical, and it will allow you to go back in the office on Monday and do something and have an impact on your organization.
Great advice. Thank you to all three of you. And to follow that up, do you have, if you had one practical tip that you could give for listeners or viewers of this webinar on how to integrate the ITIL practices into their everyday work? Just following up from what you just said, Dominic. Yeah, we'll start with you, Dominic. We'll go out of order.
So implement gradually. That would be my piece of advice. Don't do the big bang. Implement gradually, one step at the time.
Great. David, any practical tip that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I would start with the maturity assessment, as we did with a specialized consulting firm. This will help convince the business to go all in with ITIL. And then you put your efforts on priorities where it's needed.
Great. Svetlana, last word to you.
Well, actually, I'm the same. Take your time to understand where you are. Follow the ITIL principle. Take your time, take your 2-3 months. Don't rush. Understand exactly where you are and ensure your organization understands where you are. That's the best practical tip to ensure the success of your future ITIL ITSM implementation.
Thank you very much. Now, as I said, we have some great questions here. I don't think we're going to get to all of them. What we will do if we don't answer your question is get a response to you in writing. So let's try and get through some of these. I think there's one very simple one that we can deal with fairly quickly, and that is, how does ITIL complement other IT skills and especially certifications like CompTIA or Cisco? Anyone like to take that?
I could give it a first kick at the can, and then my colleagues, I'm sure, will jump in. I think it will, like, technical skills are still required. Like, ITIL is not a technical framework or practices. It gives you what you need to get things done, how to organize and structure and govern your organization. The Cisco and the CompTIA certification that were alluded to in the chat or in the question are very technical, but how do you put this into practice to run in optimal operations? or IT organization, that's what ITIL will give you and how it will complement your technical certifications.
Yeah, I can add a little bit, David, to that. In ITIL, we have such an idea of I professional, T professional, and com professional, right? So I, it's your technical skill. I know Cisco, then I know CompTIA, I know Java programming and so on and so forth, but you need something on the top of it, right? So ITIL is making it T or even comp if you have many technical skills, because it spreads it gives you the holistic view of everything which is happening in technical field.
Good, thank you. David, anything to add before I move to the next question?
Well, I think that all certifications you mentioned are good, and I can ensure you that I look for them on CVs when I hire a person.
Thank you. Amer has asked a question. Thank you, Amer. And I know this because you have been through some of the practice training and have been exposed to the maturity models, the ITIL maturity model. Have any of the panelists used the ITIL maturity model as a way of measuring either where you are or where you want to be?
Well, I can take this one. That's our specialty in a way in IT chapter. We are doing it for the past 20 years since our inception. We used numerous maturity models, including CMMI, including ISO 15504, including the latest ITIL maturity and capability models. Now we're having a difference between maturity and capability. Yes, but my conclusion and feedback on that, doesn't matter which capability model you use. And of course, ITIL model, which is from Axelos/PeopleCert, is a great model. But if you use another one, the recent ones are all great. Okay, so know how to use it and know how to apply it, and don't apply it on the face value, go deep.
Thank you.
I was going to say or add, David, that we contact IT chapter for doing an assessment on our side. That's what we do.
There you go.
Thank you. Thank you, Dominic.
So there you go.
we know. Yeah, but it really helps. Start where we are, right?
Right.
I agree.
Yeah.
On our side, we kind of use our own light maturity model in our community of practices. So each semester we review it, and we try to continuously improve with this.
Yeah, that's another one hint. Don't stop. Like if while you used it once, come back to it 6 months later, come back to it 1 year later, remeasure it, and see where you are now. And that's the base of the continual improvement philosophy. Right?
It's a really interesting question here about shift left. And the question is, how do you ensure the success of shift left, especially in a unionized environment where you may potentially be changing people's jobs? I know, David, you mentioned that. I'm not sure if you have an answer or if one of the other panelists would like to jump in.
I could try an answer. With an example. So we had a specific task that was being achieved by security operations, or SecOps teams, and they wanted us at support to achieve this task. So they really had to document, and they were really motivated to make it really clear so that people at help desk could achieve the task. And I personally put this objective of shift left. So I put this objective on every employee's evaluation. So every time they see an opportunity to have a task and shift that left, then it's a gain for everyone. As I said, it's good for the team that gives the task and good for the team that does the new task. You learn something new. Maybe you will want to find more about this task. Maybe you will want to switch to the other team because you love it, you like it too much. So that's really beneficial for everyone, the shift left.
Thank you. We have a couple of other questions, and we won't get to all of them. I'd like to just very briefly cover one or two. Fundiswa asks, is DevOps or ITIL more important? I'll answer that very quickly myself, and that is that they're both important. If you're managing products, you will find DevOps to be a lot more helpful. If you're managing services, you will find ITIL to be a lot more helpful. In your organization, you're probably managing both. So very important for you to figure out how they work together. Anybody would anybody like to add to that or
No, that's
disagree?
a good answer.
Yep.
Okay. Yes, we have 15 seconds. I'm going to close. I do apologize that we weren't able to answer all questions. We will get some answers to you in writing. Thank you to the panelists. This has been, I have learned a lot. It's been a very rewarding session for me, and I know for the people who attended this as well. We really appreciate your time. Thank you for sharing your experience and your knowledge, and really look forward to the next one. To everyone who attended, thank you for your time, and you can look forward to the next one as well. Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Thank you, David.
Thank you,
Thank you,
everyone.
Svetlana.
Bye-bye.
Thank you,
Thank you,
David.
guys.
Thanks. Bye-bye.